Alright, okay. So, as you guys remember this car, which is the drift car, there's a whole series on building this, and in that series I found out that this car has frame damage, which was from the previous owner. And because of that, I got an estimate, of course, to fix it and all of that, and it ends up just being a lot cheaper and easier to buy another 240 shell and then go ahead and take all the parts off of this car and then swap it over to that car. And so that's what I did. So this right here is the replacement car. Yeah? Alright, so basically this is the new 240 that I'm going to be building, and essentially the reason for that is because that car, because of the frame damage, it's not worth doing a lot of the more permanent mods to it, like a roll cage or tubing the front, or putting nice paint on it, because that's all stuff that's going to be more or less permanent to the chassis. And so because of that, it's just basically going to be spending money on a messed up chassis, which doesn't make any sense. So that's where this comes into place, and so now I can go ahead and do all of the more permanent modifications which were planned for that car in the first place, except that this car doesn't have any frame damage, so it's going to be good. So basically it's an S13 hatch. It's a 1991, which is ironically also the same year as that car. The owner of this car, he worked at a body shop, and so he actually guaranteed that the whole entire frame and everything was 100% straight. Like, that's the reason he bought the car. I've already checked, the frame rails are super straight underneath, and he already had his guys check it as well. So the story of buying it. I was checking for about 6 months to buy an S13 shell. About 2 of those months, I was like checking fairly frequently, and I was like, if I find one, I'm for sure going to buy it. And then the last month, leading up to buying this, I was checking every single day at a minimum of like 5 times a day on Craigslist for a 240. Now, I was in class, this one popped up on Craigslist, and it was posted just 8 minutes before I clicked on the ad. And it was in my town, it was a 91, it was a dual cam, it was an original manual car, and on top of that it had a clean title. And it was $800. And it had a blown K24DE in it. So I immediately went ahead, I texted the owner, I was like, can I meet it up? And this is all during class, alright? Okay, anyways, long story short. Okay, so the actual long story short of it was within 2 hours, I was at the guy's house, I bought the car. He turned down like 12 to 15 text messages of other people who wanted to buy the car, as well as multiple phone calls of people who wanted to buy the car and offered more money for it. So basically, I was just really, really lucky to buy the car as well as to buy it for $800. All right, let's get a little tour of it. So it has purple painted doors, not by the previous owner, but the previous owner of the previous owner. So you got 2 owners ago. It has a Grant steering wheel over here. It's an original manual 240. It has lowering springs that came with the car as well. This is completely untouched. I basically bought it, drove it into the driveway, and parked it, and this is how it's been. Okay, oh yeah, and the dash is like extremely cracked as well. Now, let's go to the engine. So here's the K24DE in it right now. The car has, I believe, 260,000 miles on it. This engine was rebuilt at 150,000 miles, and it has a blown head gasket. It still has AC. It's an original manual car, so everything is basically original. There's no coolant overflow tank that's original. It just has this one over here. It supposedly still passes smog and everything like that. That's as far as the engine goes. Now, let's go look at the bodywork. Okay, so basically the guy worked at a body shop, so because of that, he didn't really care about the aesthetics of it, because he was just kind of saving up to get it done at the body shop. That's why everything kind of has body filler on it and stuff like that. So going around, there's some dents in the roof right here which need to be fixed. So I plan to do that as well. Then you have the quarter panels over here which have dents in them. Really, these aren't that big of a deal for me because I plan to go over fenders anyways. So because of that, this should all be getting covered or cut up or anything like that. Then you have the back section. So the previous owner before him apparently drifted this into a pole. And so then the pole kind of hit here, and he said it was a weird shaped pole. This was supposedly the original tail light that was in that accident right there. And so you can see it kind of just took out this whole section. And of course there's this dent over here. So I'm going to go ahead and take all these out to the best of my ability. And then also I plan to go over fenders eventually, so that stuff doesn't really matter too much. Alright, so that's pretty much the rundown of the car right now. We have work to do. Alright, now when the previous owner had bought the 240, he said that there was a small little accident that happened in the front end of the car. And so he worked at the body shop and he said they pulled that out and everything like that. And he went ahead and bought a hood for it, and they put the hood on the car and it didn't sit right, and he said so the hood was bent. So the first thing I wanted to do was take the hood off of the gray 240, which I knew had a straight hood on it, and then put it on this car, and so that way I could actually check whether or not the hood that was on there is bent or it's just the front end that's misaligned and messed up. Okay, so to take it off, it's pretty simple. There's just 2 bolts on this side and 2 bolts on that side, and that's all that secures the hood, and then after that you can basically just lift it off.
Damn. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to take the hood off of this car, and then once I take this off, I'm going to go ahead and put it on that one and then see what happens as far as the fitment.
Yeah.
Is this stripped?
Yeah.
Even when I get a new car, I still have to deal with issues with the old one. Good to know the front end is messed up. Alright, and so as you can see, I put the gray hood on there and it has basically the same exact fitment as the other hood, which basically means that both the hoods are straight and it's just the front end that's a little bit misaligned. And so really that's not a big deal to me because it doesn't really have frame damage. That's more of just like sheet metal work with how everything bolts up in the front end. So I'll be taking care of that later on, and yeah, let's see what happens. Now next thing to do was to swap the wheels from the old car onto the new car just to check the fitment on them, because on the old car I immediately knew something was up with the frame just because when I put on the wheels I could tell that the spacing was so off on one side to another. So that's another thing just to double check with the frame damage, is to go ahead and take my old wheels and put it on this car, and so that way I can see if it has even spacing all the way around. Alright, so this car is sitting just about as low as my car, except I have stance coilovers. You can see where they just cut off the end of the OEM spring, which is why it sits so low. This is the first look so far, taking the wheel off. Notice, you see that frame rail? That's okay. But you see how the rest is straight here? Okay, now let's look at mine. See, there's a kink right there. All of this is messed up right here. And that's why we're switching to this shell. Okay, So to check the wheel spacing, I took off my 15x7 plus 0 offset Rikens off of the drift car, and then I'm going to go ahead and put it on this just so I can go ahead and then, because these are so low offset and everything, that I can look at the spacing from side to side, this side and that side, and then compare it to each other just so I know that everything's sitting square. Okay, now also over here, you can see it's all straight. All right, let's check out this fitment. That's with a 15x7 plus 0 offset with a 195/55 15 tire on it. This side, solid. That is solid. Now on this car, to get it to look like that, I needed over an inch wide spacer, which 30 millimeter, just to get that fitment. Pretty happy with the front end, just that this whole front section over here, because there's a small accident right there, that's a little off, so still have to decide on what to do with that. But anyways, now I'm going to go ahead and then just check the fitment in the rear, just make sure that's okay, although I'm pretty sure that's going to be fine. And just like with the front, with the wheel off, I went ahead and just checked to make sure everything was okay. First time taking off the wheel over here. Looks like this thing has all new rotors and pads on all four corners of the car, because these are barely worn out, and so are the fronts. And these pads also have a lot of meat left. Same with the fronts. This might be bent. Looks clean. All right. Same thing. Beautiful. Oh my God. You don't even know how I feel right now. Maybe just me, but I like how just putting wheels on the car makes it look just so much better. Quick tip right here. Anytime you have a lowered 240 at least, the gas tank is right underneath, right here. And usually you can jack up by the diff to get both back wheels off the ground. And when you do that, if you have a lowered car, sometimes when you drop down the jack, if you drop it down too fast, or if you're dropping it down for the first time after you lowered it, you could smash your gas tank. So this one I drop it down super slow and it doesn't hit it, but on this other 240, however, alright, so now that I know, like, for a pretty positive amount that the frame is for sure, like, good and straight, now I can go ahead and actually start working on it. First thing I'm going to do is clean up the interior and then see what we find in there. One door. I just found 3/4 under the seat right here. That's funny. This right here, lowering springs. He already bought them for the car, and then what is it? He said, "Oh wait, you don't need these because you have coilovers, right?" But I was like, "Well, I'll take it anyway." So, yeah. All right. Okay. Oh, this is an adjustable shift knob. Also, these are the vents right here that pop into the stock bumper. Found those here. Something also pretty cool is in the trunk. It still has the OEM jack. And the weird thing is, this is a 14 as well. 240s came with 15s. So I don't know what car this is from, but it's the spare. Also, usually there's some goodies down there where the quarter panel is and everything, except this one has a dent on both sides, so I can't really stick my hand down there. Alright, so we got these 4 spark plugs, we have these 3, we have a license plate. What is this? Oh, a hand cream, fuse box cover. This is the little cover for the headlight. This bag of random stuff. Vents for the hood, or for the bumper, and then like a brand new manual on Guide to Auto Body Repair. Oh, and the shift knob, and the 2 picks, and I believe a flathead screwdriver, which is right here. Also the lowering springs, and the 14. Alright, so not much work got done, but we went ahead and assessed the car and kind of just got a feel for everything. And so because of that, I'm confident in being able to go ahead and actually start the build and start doing more work on it, just because I know that, you know, everything's solid with the frame, and I can just basically go ahead and start doing the more permanent stuff to it. Alright, so as always, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, you can go ahead and leave it in the comments, and I usually respond to all questions within 24 hours. Of course, you could also send me a personal message, and I respond to that. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, just because I always enjoy seeing all the thumbs up on it. It always makes my day. On top of that, if you want to stay tuned for future videos, you can go ahead and subscribe and get notified of that. Also, you can go ahead and add me on Snapchat. That's at Offbeat Garage, and that's just so you can see a live update of like what I'm doing that day on everything on the car, or just in editing or whatever have you. And also, you can go ahead and add me on Instagram as well as Facebook, and I post pictures of the cars and when I'm going to events and everything like that. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and as you'll see, the real work actually starts in episode 2. See you guys. Oh, it looks so wonderful.